So, we're still on the 5 desires, and finally we're talking about power, which I kind of started thinking about early on, talking about the 5 desires, the 5 hindrances to practice. Bye, Zoe. See you later. The 5 hindrances to practice are sleep, food, sex, money, power. Sleep, food, money, sex, money, power. And actually, when you think about it, a lot of those are about power, at least when I started to look at it. And what exactly does power mean? I don't even know what power really means. We use the word a lot. He's on a power trip. But I think it has something to do with control. That we'd all like to be more in control. And that's one of the reasons Buddha says that we suffer, is because we're not in control. There's the 3 marks of existence, which Buddha said, which is impermanence, no self, and suffering. Cheery news from the Buddha. Impermanence. Things are constantly changing, and they change faster than a moment. A moment as we see it in Buddhism, is faster than we can hold on to with our mind, and things are changing at that rate constantly. And we're busy trying to hold on to something, trying to hold on to our lover, our house, our job, our family, our position, whatever. We're trying to hold on to it, and it creates suffering. So we're also trying to have more control. And gosh, I love the story of Howard Hughes. Of course, the richest man alive at the time, and also mentally ill, I think, or labeled anyway, and desperately trying to get everything to be the way he wanted it to be, and kind of thinking, well, it should be, after all, I'm so rich. But I think he bribed every member of Congress when they went and found his files. Every single member of Congress had been bribed by Howard Hughes, because he didn't want them to test atomic energy close to, he was living in Reno or Las Vegas, one of them, whichever. He didn't want him to have atomic energy tests, and he's trying to stop the test, so he spent millions, and he wasn't able to stop it. And he wasn't able to stop his death with all of his money. So, as long as we try to fix our suffering with power, if we think, if I just had a little more power, I could fix this, it's a huge hindrance to practice. And as I said yesterday, the secret is to let go. And of course, 12-step. Standard 12-step. First step, realize I'm powerless. First step. And the same with Zen. First step, realize I'm powerless. I am not in charge. Excuse me for telling all of you this, but you are not in charge. And we want to be so much. So there's so many aspects to power, but I thought I'd read this Rinzai talking about nowadays in Zen in the West, there's a big movement towards the horizontal governance or structure, horizontal structure, democratic. And the opposite of that is, I hear people say hierarchical. There's hierarchical and democratic. And hierarchical, of course, has the power differential. There's basically the abbot gives a lot of power in a Zen center. So there's a movement, let's shift that, make it democratic. And I worked on this a lot with Soltrum, who's a Tibetan teacher, tantric teacher, woman. She has a number of books out, and some of you probably read her book. But we did a workshop with Bernie. I think before Jishu died in Santa Fe at Joan Halifax's place, and talked about the horizontal vertical structure. And some people say the vertical is masculine and horizontal is feminine. And we read that book, The Blade and the Chalice, I think is the name of it, which is kind of standard feminism text. Kind of hard to read. Feminists seem to be really smart. These big words and stuff. So the shift from the sword, the masculine, to the chalice, the feminine. But the thing that is really apparent to me is we don't want to shift from a patriarchal society. Hierarchical society, a society in which the power differential is so important, to just get rid of that, and now it's all going to be democratic. Now it's just the feminine. Then we're making the same mistake. Then we end up with a matriarchal society. And to me it's very clear the only structure is including both, and that's what we're trying to do here at the Zen Center, is the council, which many of you find difficult to do because we're not used to horizontal structure. We're used to having somebody tell us how it is, and that feels comfortable. But to just trust the wisdom of a leaderless group is new for us. And so, as you know, I love council, and the wisdom that comes from council is just amazing. And I think we're a much stronger Zen Center because we do council than the old way, which I was trained in at CCLA. So much stuff was repressed. There's so much unhappiness that didn't have a place to come out. And then when it does come out, repressed stuff when it comes out is terrifying. So, but we still have the vertical structure too, and particularly in teaching, particularly the position of the teacher, not necessarily the abbot, as there's more teachers, the position of the people who have been trained in Zen practice. And this was something when Seisen Roshi was invited to go to Snowmass, the Catholic Merton's place, right? Thomas Merton's place in Colorado, the Catholic monastery. He was invited to go and talk to them about structure because they felt, because they have a democratic system, so whoever's the head, the abbot, dies, then they elect the next guy. And so it's kind of a popularity contest, right? Is it necessarily the person with the deepest understanding? And they were saying they'd like to have more of this mind-to-mind transmission that is so essential to our practice and is also scary for Westerners. It's not something we're really used to. The one teacher authorizes the next teacher. And that's not based on how many school credits you have or how many classes you've taken or how many tests you've taken. It's based on that transmission. And to throw that out would be to throw out the very core of our practice, I think. So how do we do this? Definitely So like all these desires, power is something that exists in relationships. And I think I already said this, that every relationship there's some kind of power dynamic going on. And I think probably the healthy relationships are ones that it shifts. So parent-child, usually the parent has the higher power position. And sometimes it's really good when the child gets to decide what time to go to bed or what we're going to eat for dinner or something like that. And I think all the parenting handbooks say that. Whenever it works for the child to make the decision, let the child make the decision. So have fluctuation in that power. So in a partnership, obviously by definition, partnership is equal, it's peer. So it shifts, it should be shifting. So like I was saying, I think a lot of our sexual problems come from a stuck power dynamic.